And this is maybe one of the entry-level hacks. It's called house hacking, right? You take a single-family home and you try to, within what you've already got there, separate out a potential rental unit, like a studio, one bedroom, or whatever, and get some sort of rental income from there to help offset your monthly mortgage payment. It's called house hacking. That is like the 101 of becoming an investor. Now you're living in your home, you're renting out a part of it, it's covering and reducing your mortgage out-of-pocket costs.
It's been a long time coming. Thanks for coming to the studio to be able to talk story with me, man. I'm really excited about this.
Dude, I can't even tell you how excited I am. It's one of those things where I even asked you, hey, you want to come over and help me play with my new camera stuff? Like when I was really just getting into it and geeking out on it. But yeah, so I'm really stoked that we were able to come together.
Right on. And I still intend to come over and mess around with your equipment. So June is National Homeownership Month. And so I kind of want to just get your perspective on what's happening in the market, what you're seeing, maybe even what your hopes are for local people being able to buy a home here. Last time I checked the locations website, the median sale price of a single family home was $1.1 million. For a condo was $528,000. As someone that has such an extensive background and history in the real estate industry here, what are you seeing in terms of the Hawaii homeowner market or the Hawaii homeownership market right now?
Well, it's my view is a little weird, maybe eclectic right now compared to most like real estate professionals. But this would be the second time I've experienced a full cycle in the market. Like you experience the growth, the uptick, the build of equity, right? Everybody's buying, right? And the prices are just continuing to inflate. And then my first, that in 2007, 2008, that was the first downturn I experienced personally while still in the industry. Now we're back here. It rose, it climbed to where it's at, and then we're kind of in this holding pattern a little bit, right? But it's just a weird spot. Like people are still buying, the really smart ones that aren't hindered by like qualifications or all these other things that may be an obstacle for other people. But the ones that have the ability are still buying, hand down. The other ones that don't necessarily have the ability or are on the verge of that, I think they're letting fear take over a little bit. So there's a lot of skepticism, and it's really hard to quantify what's going to happen. But we've been waiting for rates to come down, right? And in direct proportion to what's happening with inflation numbers.
Right.
But that's like we were hoping for a drop in March. That didn't happen, right? Now we're looking at 2 rate cuts before the end of the year, potentially. And even that, I don't feel... I'm hopeful that one will actually take place this year.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that you can't really quantify where it's going to be in the future. You don't know what the key indicators are going to do to... make a little bump here, and then that just throws everything off its current trajectory. It's just, you can't forecast it at all.
Yeah. And you mentioned everything's kind of plateaued or kind of in a holding pattern right now. I know that when median sale prices hit $1 million, that freaked a lot of people out, right? And I feel like that just kind of amped up a lot of fear that local people had about being able to buy a home or to buy property. And like you said, the people are still buying, but it seems like inventory is shrinking, even though the buying hasn't stopped or hasn't slowed down. I think a lot of people feel, a lot of middle-class local people feel that it's impossible to buy a home now. Is it impossible?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. It may be impossible if you're still constraining yourself within that mindset of limiting beliefs, right? And when you said philosophical, like pivot, that was one of them for me. Is like I set my own boundaries, right? What I think about is impossible becomes impossible. Now, are these things what we grew up in? What everybody else is talking about? 100%. That's why we believe them, because this is the same constraint that everybody else is living in. Are they impossible? No. You're running with the wrong crowd. You want to do things that you've never done before. You got to go run with people you've never run with before. You know. And so that's what I did. Is I changed who I was hanging out with. I changed who was feeding into my mindset. Even just down to the background noise. Right. It all counts. It all contributes to some sort of feeling, thought process, your overall just direction.
So for like local people that are hoping to buy a home, in the near future, it sounds like changing your mindset is part of the process of being able to start down that road of home ownership. What are some of the most important things local people should be doing, like one or two or three most important things at this point in time to start down that road of home ownership?
Well, I think first and foremost, for a lot of just the average person, local or not, anywhere in the U.S., it's a matter of just the basics, budgeting, your credit score, and being in a position for what those factors are that the bank is going to look for to qualify you for a loan. You got to understand those things. If you've never talked to a loan officer before, gotten pre-approved, how do you know you qualify or not? And then that's like the biggest thing that I'll probably come across is, have you talked to somebody yet to get pre-qualified? No. How come? Oh, because I know my credit's not good enough. How do you know that? Are you a loan officer? Right? Did somebody tell you your credit's not good enough? No. So you're speculating, right? And it's they'd rather feed into that fear of, I know I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to go there, try to apply and get rejected for the fear of rejection. But rejection just means you found out exactly what it takes to get qualified, because they just told you, here's where you're at, here's where you need to be. And still that conversation is uncomfortable for a lot of people. So it's hard to break out of that barrier and get into the uncomfortable for most.
Yeah. And I feel like that initial rejection can turn into the start of the path. You'll be able to navigate much easier, right? Once you know where you're at and what you need to get to the point where you can buy a home.
Yep.
So you can turn that rejection into a positive if you're willing to change your mindset and willing to take that first step forward, right?
That rejection can become a projection. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. As we're talking right now, Governor Green is signing SB 3202 into law. Basically, it'll allow counties to amend zoning codes to allow property owners to build at least 3 homes on each residential lot. It's part of an attempt to increase affordable housing stock here in Hawaii. Do you have any thoughts on how this might impact housing prices in our state?
I think it would inflate property values for sure, because that's what it does now. Anytime, and this is maybe one of the entry-level hacks. It's called house hacking, right? You take a single-family home and you try to, within what you've already got there, separate out a potential rental unit, like a studio or 1-bedroom or whatever, and get some sort of rental income from there to help offset your monthly mortgage payment. It's called house hacking. Mm-hmm. That is like the 101 of becoming an investor. Now you're living in your home, you're renting out a part of it. It's covering and reducing your mortgage out-of-pocket costs. So essentially what you're talking about is now legalizing, getting permitting to add larger units. Like, so we've had the ADU, right, the accessory dwelling unit, that's been permittable. And so this just sounds like another layer of that. But all that's for nothing if we don't get the permitting like debacle sorted out, right?
Right.
So then it's just another congestion on H1 on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that bottleneck at DPP is pretty thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gotta bust through that thing first.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about your podcast, Real Hawaii Talk, where you have these great discussions about home ownership and real estate, among a multitude of other subjects that you also cover that is relevant to life in Hawaii. How have your podcast guests broadened your view or broadened your understanding of home ownership or real estate in Hawaii? Do they give you some perspectives that you hadn't thought of before?
Most definitely. And I think I get that from any individual that I talk to, whatever we're talking about. I'm always trying to get feedback. Like my biggest question, my number one question I always want to ask somebody is, what do you do for a living, right? I'm trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, right? To this day. So what do you do? Like, why? Are you happy? Like, what do you get out of that? So just trying to see through somebody else's lens. So it's the same with any topic, home ownership, what challenges they're facing. Majority of the guests on my podcast have been entrepreneurs that have come, a lot of them are from blue collar background or even white collar, but just not the professional setting. And they've gotten into real estate investing and just figuring out how to make it work. So I started it as it was kind of a hack for me to get into the real estate investing community because I come from the retail side of real estate and sales and the mortgage industry. So, but what they're doing is completely different. So it's a mindset shift that I think only now retail realtors, mortgage professionals are trying to wrap their heads around. When I saw it coming, so I was an early adopter.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I was really interested in talking to you, because I feel like you have a broader perspective on the real estate industry here than probably most people.
Yeah.
Right. So, and just for background, what is your experience in the real estate industry? How long have you been part of the industry?
Well, I jokingly say my whole life, and only because when everybody else got picked up from school and went home to ride bike, I went to the real estate office. My grandmother had a real estate office that she had built primarily property management, but that was in order to retain all of her clients, right? Then my mom followed suit after that, and I didn't think, hey, this is what I want to be when I grow up. But in 2004, I ended up getting my real estate license, and that was the beginning of the professional career for me.
Yeah.
But really growing up in that household, like I was already groomed for it, So, excuse me, got my license in 2004, started working with my mom. She was a partner and still is a partner at Locations, and did sales, property management throughout most of that time period. And then in 2015, I saw a niche that I thought I really could associate with and talk story with, and it was the military at that time. VA loans had become really popular. They were more stigmatic prior to that, and I could just have these conversations. Most of these applicants were the ones that were applying for my rentals, so why not apply for a home loan? And right, excuse me, frog. And so it was just one of those things. Like I'm always looking for, okay, what is the horizon, telling me? Like what's on the horizon? And for me, it was, I didn't get as much gratification out of helping homeowners purchase homes from the realtor side, I got way more gratification and a better human interaction with individuals as a loan officer. And so that is the main reason why I did it. I'm not a mathematician. I'm great at using a calculator, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have a job. Right? But I'm good with people. Yeah. And the numbers part of it is the scariest part for them. The first thing that every individual does is they go online and they're window shopping. So the shopping for the home and looking for the home, that's the exciting part. That is not the hard part. The hard part is qualifying for it, right? All the stuff that we want to run away from screaming, that's what we got to do first. Yeah. So, and I guess just growing up in that office and understanding, like, now I know why my mom used to scold me when I would say decline as a kid, right? She's like, no, you can't answer the phone like that. So just being able to talk to, people from CEOs in a boardroom to just Kanaka that need help understanding, like, they don't understand all that stuff. That's gibberish to them, So being able to bridge that was kind of what I figured out I could do.
I got that sense from your podcast and just our interactions in the past that you had sort of a philosophical shift in recent years. And like you said, you got way more satisfaction out of helping people get VA mortgages rather than somebody that was trying to rent from you. Mm-hmm. Do you now like seek out, or do you get a lot of satisfaction out of helping local people, out of helping Kanaka get a mortgage, get into a home, get into some property here in Hawaii?
Well, of course. Every opportunity that I've had and the ones that are to come to help a local family, not just Kanaka, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not only Hawaiian. Mm-hmm. I've got just as much Japanese and Portuguese. I'm like quarter. So, yeah, I identify outwardly as being mostly Hawaiian, but we're all local. We all grew up together. So even that for me, making sure I encompass all of that and helping all the local people, it makes a big difference. Yeah. It can be frustrating though, right? Because they're the ones that maybe need the most education and the help, but aren't necessarily the ones that follow through, that take the advice and follow the instructions, mm-hmm. right? So it's kind of a catch-22 there.
Yeah, I could see how that could be. Why do you think they maybe don't follow through? I mean, it seems like home ownership and I don't know, maybe like reclaiming the land, so to say, is such an important part to a lot of Kanaka, or even just a lot of local people. What do you think are some of the barriers to them following through? What would you identify as some of those challenges?
Number one, mindset. Right. So like you said reclaiming the land. Mm-hmm. Claim implies there was a right. It was already paid for. I don't have to repay for it. Mm-hmm. Right. It's mine by being passed down through an act that shouldn't have been done. By default, it should still be mine, as opposed to what I'm talking to all of these local people about is they ain't going to give it back. You got to buy it back, right? So there's a learning process there. One, to stop feeling entitled, right? And two, it's, okay, putting in the work. Because these aren't skills that they've learned up until this point. Because if you feel like you have a claim to something, you're not going to sharpen your sword on how to go buy it back, right? So it's two different things.
Yeah, so it's important for Kanaka to understand how the system works today, mm-hmm. and operate within those rules today. And like you said, the fact of the matter is the land has to be bought back. And so it seems like Kanaka should be spending, and the local people in general should be spending a lot more time understanding how to find the funding to be able to make those purchases. Yeah.
How to put themselves in those positions to be able to find it, or to be ready when the conditions may adjust a little bit. Yeah. There is some of that, right? Rates can get better. Mm-hmm. That is the number one thing everybody's waiting for now, rates to get better. And when it does drop, you're going to have an influx of people that are on the sidelines like, woohoo, we can go, we're in the game again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, yeah.
Okay. Well, this is my last question for you. Like we mentioned earlier, June is National Homeownership Month. Do you have a cool story, or do you have a favorite story of how you were able to help a local person get into a home?
Yeah, I have a local couple that they were on Oahu, and we were able to get them a home on the Big Island to make their move, and it wasn't a quick process. Back then, a lot of basically the fish were jumping in the boat for a while. Everyone that signed up or applied to get pre-approved, for the most part, as long as they qualified, they went out and bought a home. So the numbers are a little bit different now, but this family wasn't that easy slam dunk transaction, but it really was more of a heartfelt connection, because I was able to connect with them, and I believe early on, his wife actually told me, we trust you, right? And that meant a lot, because by her saying that automatically told me they don't trust anybody, or hardly, right? So for me to get to that point and for her to say that out loud and make that announcement was kind of a big thing. And it took a little while. I think when we initially talked, I'm thinking maybe it was in like 2018. And then maybe like a whole year later, they kind of came back around and said, okay, we're ready now. They had to make some changes from employment from here to Big Island, wait for the opportunity for a transfer, stuff like that. And we were able to get them a home up there right before all of this big influx of focus on the Hilo side of the Big Island, right? And the coolest part about the story is that they got a home, yes, but it was a real Kanaka family, like that had made a move, and they had set a goal, they accomplished it, and that was great. That was awesome. That wasn't even the greatest part about it. Was as I started to focus and put myself out there more in the real estate investing community, we actually connected there. So they came back around and are involved in a circle of people on the Big Island that I network with and part of my circle. And they're now involved on that side, helping that community get more educated with financial literacy.
Wow.
And so it was just kind of to see them go from purchasing their home, becoming homeowners, to now they're members in the community trying to help educate other people side by side with me. That was really great. Like, that was the thing that I kind of got, like chicken skin on, like, hey. Because had they not gotten that house, had they not made that move, maybe they wouldn't be as passionate about these things and helping, turning around and not just uplifting, but like lifting up the people that were in the position that we started off in. Yeah. And so that's kind of like
I love that, man. You're growing more entrepreneurs, especially more Kanaka entrepreneurs, more local people entrepreneurs. So that's what I feel like. That's what we need more of. We need to get to that point as residents, as a people here. Brook Onishi, thanks so much for your time today, man. Really appreciate you coming to the station, and always a pleasure to talk to you.
It was good. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was an honor.
All right. That's it, man.